This special production of State of the Arts has been made possible by the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. Additional support was provided by the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation.
Well, my name is Kim Harty, and I got here about 2 weeks ago to Wheaton Arts to begin the residency for the Creative Glass Center of America, and we'll be here for 3 months. Today I was working on a piece that I've just started working on. It was a hugged piece. I had done some pieces where I was actually hitting glass and bruising it and scarring it, and those were making these sort of like violent-looking, dangerous objects. And then I started thinking about, well, what would happen if I started hugging glass? And it's sort of like the gentler side of what you might do to a piece. It's squishy and it's warm, but very quickly it turns to like, you're burning and it smells really bad. So it's interesting with glass that there are those type of limitations that you can get close but not too close.
My name is Rika Hawes, and I work a lot with the bubbles and broken glass, and I really love doing that. And I like making things that are a little bit dangerous because everything is sharp and will cut you. Part of the proposal process or application process when you come to Wheaton is that you have to submit a proposal of the work that you're going to make or potentially make while you're here. So I had a decent sense of what I was going to do. One of the things that Wheaton provides is the opportunity to make work of a scale that that I can't afford to make outside of here. It just costs too much for the hot shop time. It allows me to really make what I envision making, and I almost start to see this work as a maquette or a beginning point for where I'm going next. What you saw in the hot shop earlier is me working with the same technique but at a much greater scale.
My name is Charlotte Potter, and I've been at Wheaton now for 2 weeks. When I was applying here, it was a very conceptually based proposal. I wanted to make large-scale installation work that were abstract portraits of my family, basically. In the meantime, when I got accepted, I had this cockamamie idea for these antlers, which I just absolutely had to pursue, because I live in Jackson Hole, and Western art is so prevalent there, it kind of makes you want to vomit a little bit. There's just like logs and river stone and antlers and some more antlers. So I thought it'd be really fun to do a whole piece that was antler art, only trying to make it contemporary, trying to make it clean and new and different and non-Western. So my challenge to myself is to make non-Western antler art.
Okay, open. I didn't have a clear idea of precisely what I wanted to make, but I had more of an approach and like larger ideas or topics that I'm working on while I'm here.
I mean, everyone has a different process in their creative practice of how to kind of get going. And for me, part of how I do that is to start with what I know.
3 months sounds like a long time until you're living it, and I can't believe it's already been 2 weeks. So there's like this kind of rushed, fun, panicked frenzy, like, oh my God, this is my time right now to embrace it.
Yeah.
I always tell them the most important thing is that they get sanctuary and time. Now that's, they don't hear that because they're looking at that glass furnace drooling, and they've got 1,200 pounds of glass here that's hot and running.
No, it really did evolve over time. We opened in 1970, it's almost 40 years. Frank Wheaton Jr., who was the CEO of Wheaton Industries, at one time the largest privately owned glass company in the world, but this was his creative act. His dream was to open a village more in the Sturbridge model, the living history for the 1888 time period, the time of his grandfathers, when he started the company, and there was a lot of innovation going on with glass, so he wanted to create the typical glass town community. So the community part has lasted, but I think we've evolved. In the early 80s, 1983, the fellowship program started, and I think that was really a defining moment for the organization. organization. It was a very expensive medium at that time, and it remains a very expensive medium, so it's one that artists need some extra support.
And we have anywhere from 2 to 4 of those artists at one time, and they live here anywhere from 6 weeks to 3 months.
It's an interesting focal length, huh?
This is such an opportunity, so they work very intensely here. I was one of those artists at one point in the past, and I always likened the value of it, if it had to be put in monetary, would be like getting a $50,000 grant to come in and really saturate yourself in the work and the time and the facility and the sanctuary of this place, like any art colony.
That's a good point, and not even have black.
My title is Creative Director of the Glass Studio. I do that.
But why is that so hard?
I help manage the program, but I do everything from really take out the garbage. I mean, we're a community where we all are stewards of this facility.
You probably really want to give it a heavy...
One of the reasons I took this job is to be part of the community. And this is a very small group of people that maintains a very labor-intensive building. And we do it all for very little funds.
Careful coming through here, don't fall over. This is my temporary summer studio for this. I'm trying to do about 4 pieces for an exhibition. And these are components that I made many years ago that I'm just now getting to use. They're all these castings and vessels and forms that get tied together, and they go onto these still lives, and they get tied down with this wire tethering, so they'll go on here, and they're a lot of fun to make. I do get work done here. I don't get as much work done as I would before I was independent, but I've always taught and done other things. But it is very hard, and particularly within an institution that's struggling, like all nonprofits are really struggling to make a go, because the world's changing incredibly fast. Yeah, and this is right behind you. This is this new building, and this is the siding that was donated to us, and we're in the process of applying it to the exterior of the building. The space is insulated and dry, and it's a really deluxe space for the artists. This is a big change. The spaces that we've had in the past for artists were never actually designed specifically for the artists. They were makeshift, and this is the first time we've actually made really top-notch studios for them. It's a gorgeous room. We can go and look at it if you want. It's under construction, but it's almost there. We put in a skylight, which gives it this beautiful daylight. It's a translucent panel, not a clear panel, but it mutes the light but gives it a beautiful glow in here, which is great for the artists. It's indirect light, but it leaves no shadows, so it's wonderful for artists. So this
Hank Adams has brought to the program is a vision, and he has this way of getting people invested in his vision. I'm involved very closely with construction here. I'm an architect, and we just finished the new studio, which you've seen. And Hank, it's sort of like, well, we need to start doing this. And people say, well, can we afford to do it? But he saw the need for the space.
And then when we don't have artists here, we're going to start to run classes and educational programs, and this will serve as several classrooms with a partition. So it's a versatile space, and it's already, I mean, as being one of the visionaries here, I'm already living it and using it in my head, and we haven't even, sealed it up yet.
The purpose of Glass Weekend at the Wheaton Arts Center is to raise money to give to artists so that they can pursue their vision here at the facility. All of our activities are centered around making sure that the coffers are filled at the end of the weekend. We pay fees for our booths, which are supported by the collectors who will buy the works. The collectors are paying a fee to be here for the weekend, and all of the money that's raised will ultimately be given away to artists who will have residencies here at the Glass Center to pursue their work.
We call it summer camp for glass collectors. The whole driving force here is to raise money for the fellowships that are given out by the Creative Glass Center of America. These are both new glass artists and midstream artists and artists who just want to have some time to experiment and be able to develop their art.
But it's been key to keeping the program stable, and it certainly doesn't cover all the costs, but it's a very important part of it. But at the same time offers programming for the general public. I mean, people can come just for the day to see the demonstrations and the gallery exhibitions as well. But it's more or less a one-stop overview of what's being done in contemporary glass.
The truth of the matter is that this program, the CGCA program, the Creative Glass Center of America program, is rapidly becoming the tail that wags the dog here. I mean, nobody is going to drive out to South Jersey to see a reproduction of a paperweight. Maybe a few people might. But there would be a lot of people that would come here because there is this exciting program of really experimental contemporary glass and sculpture. That would draw people.
I felt everyone here would respond to the breaking aspect of the piece, but also there's a heart on top and sort of a healing heart, which is a common theme in Tim Tate's work. He's a founder of the Washington Glass School and is here to meet everyone today and talk about his work.
I either cast pieces or use found objects and then encase them in glass. I blow the glass, I cast all the objects, and then I write stories about them and etch them into the surface because I came from writing. So it kind of melds my love of writing and my love of casting, and then I can tell these incredible stories that go along with them. They're all kind of healing stories because I deal with art and healing a lot. Once every 2 years, collectors from all over the world come to this little town in New Jersey to look at some of the best artwork in the world. So to be here is just an incredible opportunity for me.
I've been here from the first show that happened many years ago in the 80s. And it's always been a very casual and wonderful weekend for people that they bring in curators and introduce them to the media.
So you can turn it, have to do it carefully. You can turn it whichever way you like.
The facility allowing people to watch glass blowing and to meet artists is a really special one for everyone. So they come from all around the country to enjoy the weekend.
I'm Sabrina Knowles.
I'm Jenny Coleman.
We're a collaborative team. We've been working together for 15 years. And what we were doing this afternoon is we were putting one of our pieces called the Sankofa, which is a bird that's looking back. It's a Adinkra symbol from Ghana, West Africa, and what it means is if there's something in your past worth going back for, don't be afraid to go back and get it.
We had our residency, which was a very formative time for us, 3 months here at Wheaton in 1999.
It was a great gift.
We had plenty of time to work and manipulate what can be a very finicky and stubborn and challenging material.
And not be afraid of it coming out in the end, whether or not we had product, so to speak. So it was very liberating, and it was a springboard for us for many of our series that we work on today.
We could push our designs to the point of losing them without fear, so it was very exploratory.
It's not about coming here, making a piece, putting it on a pedestal. This is more, when you talk about a fellowship, it's almost like a MacArthur grant. That you do what you want. No one says you need to work so many hours. If you want to work 24 hours a day, I was here one night, I think it was 2 in the morning, and the hot shop was really cooking. I mean, people were in there working. You come 6 o'clock in the morning, people have been working for hours. So that I find gratifying. It's not about come here, make a piece, put on a pedestal, sell it. It's more about expanding their vocabulary.
I think Hank is an extraordinary person, and he's been an extraordinarily important person to this particular program. His vision of the field is broader than just glass. He thinks like a sculptor. He thinks in the way that an artist of a broader perspective thinks. And he's bringing that kind of broader perspective to this program.
I mean, some of these would be absolutely gorgeous if you...
The other thing that Hank did is he created many more entry points for artists to come in, and looking at a much bigger picture. And again, not looking at glass as being the primary goal, that the primary goal is creativity, and how do we best nurture that.
Well, on the floor right now, speaking to the public, is Jan Olivier, who's a volunteer. She does narration for us. She's a soon-to-retire school teacher, and she's art teacher, and she's wonderful. We rely a lot on volunteers to help us with this part of the programming. Blowing glass right now is our shop foreman, floor manager. He's been blowing glass here for many years. He learned to blow glass here. His name's Don Frill, and he's doing a demonstration for the public, which is I believe it's a pitcher with a hollow handle. And this is important to show the public traditions of vessel making. Assisting him is one of our assistants, interns. Skitch is his nickname, and he's wonderful, and he's recently come to us, and he's a perfect example of getting an education here. He works really hard for us. He gives back a lot, and we give a lot to him. It's a great symbiotic relationship. Next to him is also another boy recently out of school. His name's Luke, and he is assisting one of our resident artists right now, Maret, who's from Estonia, and she's not usually on the blow floor, but she's today doing some blown work. I haven't had a chance to see what she's doing. This kind of narration only happens a few times a day for about a half an hour, but it does affect some of the things you're doing. But you learn to work around it. But it's quite an opportunity for the public to come in and see not only, I love the difference, the contrast, to see Don Frill making this blown traditional piece of glassware next to someone, I mean, who knows what the artist is doing over there right now. She could be making a component for some very large sculpture. She could be filming it and doing it as a conceptual piece. It runs the gamut. There could be anything going on. So the public gets to see these two ends of creativity, which is really unique.
I actually enjoy it. I mean, it's taught me a lot about the common man understanding something, and glass is a great tool for teaching.
They're real artists. These are real working, practicing artists who are here. We're not staging, and that was part of our commitment to realize that we weren't that we didn't want to have a situation where it was usury of artists in order to entertain the public, but that we had to create an environment that ensured the needs of both.
I think even though sometimes it's really tedious, I think actually having the audience come in every day is a really interesting thing that happens here. And in terms of some of the performance work that I was doing in the hot shop, it was really great for me to kind of have a captive audience. In one way, I'm sort of like the zoo animal that they get to come see, but in another way for me, I got to sort of try out things on them. And that was really, I think that was important for my work and also really unique to Wheaton. A lot of the focus of my work focuses on the performance of craft and what goes into making a piece of glass in the hot shop. So one of the fun things that came out of that exploration is this performance called synchro blow. In glass, when you're learning technique, you're always trying to achieve this certain type of perfection to imitate the moves of the maestro or whoever you're learning from, exactly. And so I started doing this routine with one other person where we would try to make a piece that was perfectly symmetrical. But what it turned into is a larger performance with more people and LED lights. So it's sort of like a light extravaganza. And that's something that I've been working on here to get the choreography better, to kind of develop it more into a more finished performance.
Kim's work really is primarily performance-based, and she never had a good venue for the synchro blow. We actually were practicing every night for over a month. So in the end, it comes together kind of fluidly, and you're like, oh, well, it couldn't be that hard to all be blowing glass in unison, right? That couldn't be that hard. But everybody has a completely different glass blowing style, so trying to get everybody to actually do the same thing in time to beat with the music and do the same moves at the same time, it took us a week just to figure out how all to step around the pipe at the same time. Like just a little thing like that. So you couldn't have done this anywhere else besides Wheaton.
Yeah, the three of us have been working initially on our own and now together with other people to create a circus troupe called the Cirque du Verre. And we did one performance here instead of doing a demo and slide talk for the Wheaton community. We put on a circus. And it's really an exploration of working with a material that is so sexy and so attractive to people as in terms of its entertainment value, and combining that with some content that's important to us, primarily around the idea of the circus and the use of traditional media and entertainment, and where all those things kind of combine and become more interesting kind of opportunities for exploration in terms of making work. I've started thinking about being here at Wheaton almost like going back to grad school, but actually getting to make work. Because school, you got so much other stuff going on with classes and meetings and whatnot and responsibilities that coming here is what I had kind of hoped school would be like, where I've just made a ton of work and been able to play and experiment and do everything that I could think of doing and been supported in doing that. You know, I asked Don, one of the staff here, like, hey, can I do this? And he helps me figure out a way to do it. I make stuff and then I cold work it or grind and polish it or alter it quite a bit before I finish it. Now that we're near the end, I'm someone who picks up speed at the end, so I'm just kind of running all out right now, trying to not only finish work that I've already started, but still making things and still having new ideas and trying to follow them through in the next 3 days that we have left in the hot shop here.
Rika just makes, she just creates. She gets going on an idea and then she just like starts pumping it out and like makes a bunch of them, and in the making process kind of figures out what they're about. And like Kim is similar but in a different way. Like she was playing with we melted this tank of black glass, and so she was like, okay, what am I gonna do with black? What am I gonna do with black? And she was like writing this out, and then as she was writing, she was like, black ink on a page, black ink, letters, great, I'm gonna make letters. And so like she works like that. Like it seems so dumbed down, like almost like obvious, but it's sort of genius in that way.
Charlotte is very focused. She has probably 2 or 3 different projects that she has worked on really diligently for 3 months. And it did a lot of experimentation in terms of developing technique and a really strong skill base in doing that. And she's a great glassblower. She's very technically competent at what she does.
I had never had this amount of concentrated time to make my own work ever in my entire life. So even in undergraduate, you get 1 blow slot a week, 1 a week. I blow glass every single day. So there's been a huge learning curve. Like with the antlers, just trying to struggle through making 1 initially was really hard, and then I got them down to like 15 minutes a piece and like just really working through them, and that was amazing. It felt so good. They're really kind of stressful to make because you have to get the glass to this messy point. You have to like work it really stupid hot, and that's really against what glass blowers typically do. You want to make like a beautiful thin cup or something. You're not gonna like get it stupid hot. So it was a whole different way of working. I feel as though I've mastered the antler. I mean, but the problem is you start to become obsessed with these things. Like it started as just something I was gonna do for a second. It was like this little idea that I was gonna whiz right through in the beginning of the residency, and it became an obsession. I mean, I've been dreaming antlers. So,
it takes you a while to be immersed here and to get deprogrammed and to actually have that walk in the woods, that time, that contemplative time to think about things. So it sounds crazy because we can all, again, have that self-discipline to make that choice to go somewhere and have that time. But here it's, in a sense, forced upon you, but that's the most valuable thing. And then I can go through a long list of the things that are most generous here in a changing world, and that's housing, a stipend, we have brand new, beautiful studios for these artists. We have technical help, support systems.
It's kind of like, I guess, inspirational because like you don't, you don't kind of get judged. Like, people don't assume to know what you're going to do or like what it should be. And it's really kind of, well, Hank calls it like a sanctuary, like that's what this place is.
For the fellows, this is utopian. It's a utopian idea where I get to come in and be narcissistic and selfish and make work all the time. And you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing to be able to do that for a few months, especially as an artist.
Being on this commune of sorts, as we talk about it, the commune. Welcome. It just breathes this like working creativity around you all the time, so you can't help but just make constantly.
I don't think I've seen an artist here that hasn't, even if they've had great failures, learned a great deal and accomplished quite a bit.
To Charlotte's last day in the studio. I almost cried.
This special production of State of the Arts was made possible by the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. The New Jersey State Council on the Arts, encouraging excellence in the arts since 1966. Additional support was provided by the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation, supporting cultural, educational, and environmental initiatives that make our world more livable.